Some betrayals cut so deep they silence a whole lifetime, but some women rise from that silence with power no one saw coming. She was the girl her own family threw away. The one her cousin destroyed with lies so cruel they shattered her name. They chased her out, stripped her of dignity, and built their comfort on the ruins of her reputation. But destiny waited, because the same cousin who lied to bury her would one day stand trembling before her, not as family, but as a criminal in her courtroom. This is the story of Sira, the forgotten girl who returned as the judge, holding the truth, the power, and their fate in her hands. Before we begin, please like, comment, and subscribe, so this story can reach more hearts across the world. Sira stood at the edge of the dusty compound, her fingers trembling as she watched her cousin Lamek whisper to a small group of neighbors. Their eyes kept shifting toward her, sharp and suspicious, as though she carried a poison no one wanted to touch. Sira took a slow breath and walked closer. "What are you telling them this time?" she asked quietly. Lamek turned with a smirk. "Only the truth. People deserve to know who you really are." Sira looked from face to face, searching for one person who still believed her. No one spoke. It felt as though the ground beneath her feet had crumbled. She whispered, "Why are you doing this to me?" But Lamek only folded his arms, enjoying the attention. The lies began small, whispers about money missing from Grandma Tanny's room, accusations of disrespect, invented stories that painted Sira as a troublemaker. But as days passed, the rumors grew teeth. She forged signatures, one neighbor murmured. She stole land documents, another added. Sira felt her life collapsing one lie at a time. In the kitchen that evening, she confronted Lamek again. "You know I didn't do any of these things," she said. Lamek shrugged. "Whether you did or didn't no longer matters. People believe me." She stared at him, heart tightening. "Why, Lamek, what have I done to deserve this?" He looked at her with cold triumph. "You were always the favorite. I'm just correcting the balance." Sira tried to defend herself. She walked door to door, explaining, clarifying, pleading for people to listen. But every time she spoke, someone else would shake their head and repeat something new Lamek had invented. The worst came at the family meeting. Aunts, uncles, and cousins filled the sitting room, the air thick with tension. Uncle Gerald slammed his hand on the table. "Sira, these accusations are too many. We cannot ignore this anymore." Sira swallowed hard. "Uncle, they're lies. All of them." Grandma Tanny, frail but sharp, looked at her sadly. "Child, if these things are false, why does Lamek sound so convincing?" Sira's chest tightened. "Because he practiced," she whispered. Lamek rose dramatically. "I saw her take the documents with my own eyes," he declared. Gasps filled the room. Sira stepped back. "You're lying." Lamek looked calm, too calm. "You can deny it all you want, but everyone knows who you really are." Aunt Mava leaned forward. "Sira, just admit it. We can forgive you." Sira felt something in her break. "Forgive me for something I didn't do?" She shook her head slowly. "I will not carry guilt that doesn't belong to me." Lamek clicked his tongue mockingly. "Then don't expect any mercy." And just like that, the family turned their backs on her. Sira left the compound that night with a single suitcase. Her mother begged her to stay, but even she looked unsure, confused, shaken by the stories. Sira whispered, "Mama, if you doubt me too, then I must go." She walked into the darkness, heart heavy, but something fierce inside her awakening. She didn't know where she would sleep or how she would rebuild her life, but she knew staying would kill her spirit. One day, she murmured to herself, "The truth will speak louder than his lies." The city was overwhelming at first. Sira worked odd jobs, cleaning offices at night, sorting files during the day. She rented a tiny room with peeling paint and a mattress stuffed with old foam. Sometimes she cried quietly, remembering how quickly her own blood had condemned her. But every morning, she stood in front of the cracked mirror and whispered, "I know who I am." One afternoon, while cleaning a law firm's reception, she overheard two lawyers discussing a scholarship program. It felt like a door had been cracked open just enough for her to see a path. And she stepped toward it. Siras applied. She wrote her story. Not the betrayal, but her dreams, her determination, her belief in justice. Weeks passed, and one morning, she found an envelope slipped under her door. Her hands shook as she tore it open. She had been accepted. She screamed, laughed, cried all at once. Her neighbor, an elderly tailor named Keela, knocked. "Child, what is it?" Sira hugged her tightly. "I got the scholarship." Keela smiled. "Then rise, my daughter. Show them who you are." Law school wasn't easy. Sira studied until her eyes burned. She worked part-time jobs to survive. She went days with little sleep, nights filled with books, cases, and notes. During group discussions, when students boasted about their influential families, she remained silent. But her silence wasn't weakness. She was sharpening herself quietly. One night, her lecturer, Professor Danov, stopped her after class. "Sira, your mind is sharp," he said. "Your discipline is rare. You have something the others don't." Sira bowed her head slightly. "Thank you, sir." He smiled. "Don't thank me. Just keep going." Years passed. Sira graduated top of her class. She received offers to work with prestigious firms, but she chose the Ministry of Justice instead. "I want to help people like me," she explained during her interview. They accepted her instantly. Her rise was steady, quiet, consistent, like water shaping stone. She gained respect for her fairness, her clarity, and her calm strength. One morning, after a major corruption case, her director called her in. "Sira," he said thoughtfully, "there's something I want you to consider. We need more judges with your kind of integrity." The day she was sworn in as a judge, Sira stood before the mirror once again. She wore a simple black robe, her hair pulled back neatly. Her heart pounded, but not from fear, from purpose. Keela, now elderly but still sharp, held her hand. "Remember the girl who walked into this city with nothing but truth?" Sira nodded. "She is the one sitting on that bench today." Sira walked into the judicial hall, her footsteps echoing like slow thunder. She whispered, "Let justice breathe through me." Years went by like pages turned in a book. Sira became known as the quiet storm in the justice system, calm, measured, but unstoppable when it came to truth. People whispered her name with respect in the corridors of the ministry. One cool morning, as she sat in her office reviewing new case files, her assistant, Laren, walked in with a stack of folders. "These are the cases assigned to you for this quarter, Judge Sira," he said. She nodded, reaching for the top file. The moment her eyes fell on the first page, her hand froze. The case was about forged land documents, stolen community property, and the defendant's name made her blood run cold. Lamek Tori. She stared at the letters, her heart thudding. It couldn't be a coincidence. Laren watched her carefully. "Is everything okay, Ma?" She swallowed slowly. "Yes," she replied. "Please leave the file. I will review it." When he left, she leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. Destiny had a strange way of circling back. She opened the file again, forcing her breathing to slow. The complaint came from a group of villagers and elders from her hometown area. They accused Lamek of illegally selling shared land, forging signatures of old people who couldn't even hold a pen anymore. Attached were copies of documents, shaky thumbprints, and records of suspicious transactions. At the bottom of one statement, her chest tightened. It was signed, Tani Kovar. Grandma. Sira pressed her fingers to the paper as if she could feel the old woman's hand through it. "So you finally saw who he really is," she whispered. Memories of the night she left home rushed back. The accusations, the tears, the humiliation. She felt an old ache rise in her, but she pushed it down. "I am a judge now," she reminded herself. "I cannot sit in this case if I cannot be impartial." She paused, tested her own heart, and found no desire for revenge, only a deep hunger for truth. "I will hear it," she said quietly. The day of the hearing arrived. The courtroom buzzed with low murmurs as villagers, journalists, and curious onlookers filled the seats. Sira sat on the bench, her black robe resting neatly on her shoulders, her face calm but unreadable. She looked over the courtroom, eyes passing across the faces without lingering. When the bailiff announced, "All rise," the room stood as she entered. She took her seat. "You may sit," she said softly. The case file lay open before her, but she kept her gaze forward. The door at the side opened again as the defendant was led in. For a moment, she did not look at him. Then slowly she raised her eyes. Lamech stopped walking. His face went pale, his mouth falling open. "Sirrah," he breathed under his breath. The guard nudged him forward. Sirrah's expression did not change. To the courtroom, she spoke firmly. "This court will hear case number 17B. Parties will identify themselves for the record." The lawyer for the complainant stood first, a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a steady voice. "My name is Advocate Miradan. I represent the elders and villagers of Kovar district, including Madame Tanny Kovar." Sirrah's eyes flickered for a split second at the mention of her grandmother, but she simply nodded. "Noted," she said. The defense counsel rose next. Counsel Vero Lim, representing the defendant, Lamech Tori. Lamech shifted uncomfortably, still staring at Sirrah as if he had seen a ghost. He leaned toward his lawyer and whispered, "She's my cousin." "We can't." Vero brushed him off. "It doesn't matter. A judge is a judge." Sirrah cleared her throat. "Let it be known that the presiding judge has prior family connection with the defendant. Any objection to my presence on this case?" Mira looked at her client group. They all shook their heads. "No, my lord," Mira replied. "We trust your integrity." Vero hesitated, glanced at Lamech, then said, "No objection, my lord." Sirrah's voice remained calm. "Very well. We proceed." Advocate Mira began. "My lord, the case before you is simple yet tragic. The defendant, trusted as a relative and community representative, used that trust to steal. He forged signatures, manipulated elders, and took possession of land that did not belong to him. For many years, he did this without consequence." She walked slowly as she spoke, her words clear. "We will show records of forged documents, prove that elders were deceived, and demonstrate that the defendant has a pattern of dishonesty." Lamech shifted again, looking restless. Sirrah watched, her mind alert. She remembered how he had confidently lied about her years ago. Patterns, she thought. People rarely change their habits without a shock. Mira continued, "One of the complainants, Madame Tanny Kovar, will testify that she once believed his lies about another family member, and she regrets it deeply." A murmur went through the room. Sirrah's inside trembled, but her face remained still like stone. Grandma Tanny entered the witness box with the help of an attendant. Time had carved deep lines into her face, but her eyes were still bright. "State your name," Mira said gently. "Tanny Kovar," the old woman answered. Her voice trembled. Mira nodded. "Do you know the defendant?" Grandma Tanny glanced at Lamech. "He is my grandson," she said weakly. "I loved him dearly." Lamech swallowed hard, unable to meet her gaze. "Did you sign any documents granting him rights to your land?" Mira asked. The old woman's lips pressed together. "No. I cannot write. He told me I was signing for a medical grant for old people. I trusted him. I placed my thumb as he asked." Mira handed her a document. "Is this your thumbprint?" Tears welled in the old woman's eyes. "Yes, but I did not give him my land." Sirrah leaned forward slightly. "Madame Tanny," she said gently, "did anyone explain these documents to you before you placed your thumb?" "No, my lord," she whispered. "He only said it was to help me." Mira hesitated, then asked softly, "Madame Tanny, has this defendant lied about anyone else in the family before?" The courtroom went silent. Grandma Tanny's hands shook as she gripped the railing. "Yes," she breathed. "Years ago, he told us that my granddaughter stole documents. He said she forged signatures and tried to take land." She looked down, ashamed. "We believed him. We drove her out. We never checked the truth." Lamech clenched his jaw. "Objection." Vero jumped up. "Irrelevant to the present claim." Sirrah looked at him calmly. "Overruled." Pattern of trust and deception is relevant. The witness may continue. Grandma Tanny's voice broke. We treated her like dirt. She left in the night. I have not seen her since. Sarah's heart squeezed inside her chest, but her face stayed composed. Thank you, Madam Tanny, she said softly. You may step down. As Grandma Tanny was let out, she glanced towards Sarah with confusion, as if something familiar in the judge's eyes tugged at an old memory. The defense presented their argument next. Vero tried to paint the sales as legitimate. My lord, the elders consented. They knew they could no longer manage the land. My client simply helped them turn unused property into money. He presented receipts, contracts, even video clips of some elders shaking hands with Lamech. But each time, Mira countered with dates that didn't match, signatures that experts said were forged, and bank statements showing the funds disappearing into Lamech's personal account. If these transactions were honest, Mira said firmly, why were the complainants not informed where the money went? Vero became more aggressive. These are old people. Memories fade. They don't understand legal paperwork. Sarah leaned forward. Are you suggesting, counsel, that old age cancels the right to be told the truth? Her voice was calm, but the weight in it made the room fall silent. Vero cleared his throat. No, my lord. I only mean, be careful with your meaning, she interrupted, eyes steady. Finally, it was time for Lamech to testify. He stepped into the box, avoiding Sarah's gaze. State your name, Mira said. Lamech Tori, he replied faintly. Do you agree you handled land transactions for your community? She asked. Yes, he said. But everything I did was with good intention. Mira folded her arms. Good intentions with hidden accounts. Lamech frowned. I took a small commission. That is normal business. She slid a paper toward him. Is this your message to a friend saying, these old ones are easy to trick? By the time they realize, I will be far ahead? Lamech's eyes widened. That was a joke, he muttered. It didn't mean anything. Mira smiled coldly. We will let the court decide how funny it is. She then called a digital expert who confirmed the messages were his. Vero tried to object, but his voice grew weaker each time. Sarah watched everything, her mind sharp, her feelings folded and placed aside like clothes in a box she refused to open. When the court broke for a short recess, Lamech finally looked up at Sarah properly. There was panic in his eyes now. As the guards let him out, he whispered hoarsely, Sarah, please. She stood and walked toward her chambers without responding. In the corridor, Laren quickened his steps beside her. My lord, should I bring tea? She exhaled slowly. Yes, thank you. Inside her chambers, the silence pressed on her. She sat down, staring at her hands. She remembered the night she packed her small suitcase, the words, don't expect mercy, echoing in her mind, the way he had watched her fall apart. Now, he was the one reaching for mercy. A part of her small, wounded self wanted to shout, this is what you deserve. But another part, the woman shaped by years of discipline and pain and growth, whispered, you are not here to punish for your past. You are here to protect justice for everyone. A knock sounded on the door. Laren peeped in nervously. My lord, the defendant is asking if he can speak with you privately. Sarah's eyes hardened slightly. No, she said. He knows I cannot meet him alone while the case is ongoing. That would violate procedure. Laren nodded quickly. Yes, my lord. I will inform him. As the door closed, Sarah leaned back, letting out a long breath. She spoke into the empty room. Years ago, you had access to my private life, Lamech. You twisted it. Now, the only access you have is through the law. She took up her pen and began to write notes for her judgment, listing facts, evidence, testimonies. Every line she wrote was like a step away from raw emotion and a step closer to clear truth. When the break ended, she walked back into the courtroom, carrying not just her robe and file, but the weight of a life that had come full circle. The second day of hearing brought new evidence. Mira called another witness, a former friend of Lamech's named Kiso. He looked uncomfortable as he entered the box. Do you swear to tell the truth? Sira asked. I swear, my lord, Kiso replied. Miraz approached. Mr. Kiso, did the defendant ever speak to you about his dealings with elders? Kiso shifted. Yes. What did he say? Kiso sighed. He said, if my family believed I was honest when I framed my cousin, imagine how easy it is to trick strangers. The courtroom exploded in whispers. Sira felt the air leave her lungs. Myra's eyes flashed. What cousin? Kiso swallowed. He never told me her name. He only said his family turned against her because of things he spread. Vero sprang up. Objection. Unverified, my lord. Sira's voice came quiet but sharp. Overruled. This statement supports a pattern of manipulation. The court will consider it. Inside, the little girl Sira once was curled in a corner listening. The woman Sira now was stayed firmly on the bench. After long questioning, Mira turned to Lamek once more. Do you deny that you said these words? He shook his head stubbornly. I don't remember. Maybe I was drunk. People say things. Mira nodded slowly. Then let's speak of what you signed, she said. She produced another document, a loan agreement tied to the land money. The bank officer testified that Lamek had used the land as collateral without the elder's knowledge. Piece by piece, his defense crumbled. Even Vero's shoulders drooped. At one point, Lamek looked up at Sira with desperation. My lord, he said suddenly, his voice cracking, I would like to say something. Sira gazed at him, eyes unreadable. You may proceed if it relates to the case. He swallowed. I made mistakes. I took things that weren't mine. But I did it because I always felt ignored, overshadowed. No one ever saw me. Mira cut in. So you chose to steal from the only people who trusted you? His shoulders sagged. I don't expect you to understand. The final submissions were made. Myra's words were like a slow, steady river cutting through stone. The elders trusted him because he was family. He used that trust to deceive. Now they stand here, not just for money, but for dignity. Vero tried to soften the impact. My lord, my client has admitted to some wrongs. He is willing to make amends. We ask the court for mercy. Prison will destroy him completely. When they finished, Sira adjourned the case to prepare her judgment. In her chambers, she sat alone for a long time, the file open before her. She remembered the small room she once rented, the scholarship letter, the late nights, the whispered belief in her own worth. She also remembered the pain of being falsely accused. If I let anger lead, she said quietly to herself, I had become what hurt me. If I let truth lead, I become what I was called to be. She closed her eyes and prayed for clarity, not vengeance. When the day of judgment arrived, the courtroom was completely full. Villagers who had traveled far sat shoulder to shoulder with city reporters and lawyers. The air vibrated with expectation. Sira entered, and the room rose. She took her seat, opened the file, and began to read. Her voice was calm, but each word carried weight. This court has listened to testimonies, examined documents, and reviewed evidence supplied by both parties, she began. The question before the court is whether the defendant, Lamek Tori, unlawfully took possession of land and funds belonging to the complainants through deceit and forgery. She went through the facts carefully, Grandma Tanny's testimony, Kiso's statement, the bank records, the digital messages. She did not rush. Finally, she said, the evidence shows a clear pattern of deliberate deception. This court finds the defendant guilty of fraud, forgery, and unlawful conversion of property. A sharp cry escaped someone in the crowd. Lamek's knees weakened. He gripped the edge of the table, eyes glassy. Sira continued, her tone firm but not cruel. However, the purpose of justice is not only to punish, but to correct and protect. She looked directly at Lamek now. You used your place in the family to exploit those who trusted you. You planted lies and watched them grow into poison. For a brief moment, her gaze softened. Just a little. You once destroyed someone else's life with falsehood. Now, your own actions have brought you here. She ordered full restitution of the land and funds, supervised by the court, and a prison sentence that reflected the seriousness of his crimes, but left room for eventual rebuilding. You will also serve in community programs that educate others about fraud, she said. You will face what you have done, not hide from it. When she finished reading, there was a heavy silence. Then, slowly, Grandma Tanny stood with the help of another elder. Her eyes were full of tears. My lord, she said hoarsely, addressing Sarah. May I speak? Sarah nodded. You may. The old woman turned, first to the villagers, then to Lamech. My heart is broken, she said. I trusted you, Lamech. I believed you when you told us stories about your cousin. I joined in your lies. Now I see that I helped destroy an innocent child. Her voice cracked. If that child were here today, I would beg her to forgive me. She looked up at Sarah again, staring into her face, searching. For a moment, recognition flickered in her eyes, like a candle trying to remember fire. Sarah felt tears burning behind her calm expression. Court is adjourned, she announced quickly, her gavel sounding like thunder in her own chest. Outside the courtroom, the hallway filled with voices. Lamech, in handcuffs, was being led away when he suddenly stopped and turned towards Sarah as she stepped out. Sarah, he said, his voice breaking, I know you're not just a judge to me. You're the cousin I ruined. I know you remember. For the first time since the hearing started, she let their eyes lock fully. Pain, regret, and history swirled between them. Yes, she said quietly. I remember. Tears spilled down his face. I was jealous. You were always better, always loved. I thought if I pushed you down, I would rise. I was wrong. I destroyed you, and now I destroyed myself. He fell to his knees despite the chains. Please forgive me. People around them watched, stunned. Sarah took a slow breath. As a judge, she replied, I have already spoken. The law has given you what you earned. As Sarah, she paused, feeling the ache inside her pulse. As Sarah, I release you from my heart. I forgive you. But forgiveness does not cancel consequences. That is where I draw the line. Later that evening, as the sun turned the courthouse steps golden, Grandma Tanny and Sarah's mother approached her slowly. Her mother's eyes were swollen from crying. Sarah, she whispered, voice trembling. Is it really you? Sarah looked at her, the woman who had doubted her, who had watched her leave years ago with a suitcase and broken heart. Yes, Mama, she said softly. Her mother grabbed her hands, sobbing. I am so sorry. I believed the wrong child. I judged you without listening. Can you ever forgive me? Grandma Tanny's voice shook as she added. I joined them. I let lies lead me. I don't deserve your face. Tears slipped down Sarah's cheeks. I spent years wanting you to say those words, she admitted. But I also learned something. If I tied my healing to your apology, I would never be free. She squeezed their hands gently. I forgave you before I saw you again. Not for your sake, but for mine. She stepped back slightly, creating a small but clear space between them. I love you, she said, but I will not return to the place where my voice is ignored. If we are to have a relationship now, it will be different. I am no longer the girl you can silence. I am a woman with boundaries. Her mother nodded through tears. We will learn, she whispered. We will come to you with truth, or we will not come at all. Sarah smiled faintly. That is enough for now. As she walked down the steps alone, the city lights beginning to glow, she felt a strange calm settle over her. Her cousin had tried to destroy her. His lies had thrown her into darkness. But that darkness had taught her how to see. It led her to purpose, to strength, to a bench where she now decided the fate of those who once dismissed her. She did not walk as a victim anymore, but as a woman who knew that justice and forgiveness could live in the same heart, so long as boundaries guarded the door. And for the first time in a long time, Sarah felt truly free. And please don't forget to tap the bell so every new folktale reaches you first. Tell us in the comments what you think about the story. And tell us where you're watching from. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share this beautiful story with friends, family, and loved ones so they too can remember.